मिस्टर गांधी और डॉक्टर अंबेडकर के बीच लंबे समय से चला आ रहा आमना सामना आज आखिर पूना करार के रूप में खत्म हो गया। डॉक्टर ने इस पर जनमत संग्रह की शर्त के बिना दस्तखत करना कबूल कर लिया है। इस समझौते पे डॉक्टर अंबेडकर और पंडित मालवीय दस्तखत करेंगे। इससे गांधी जी का दीर्घ उपोषण भी समाप्त हो जाएगा।
लेकिन हम लोग 197 सीटों की मांग पर अडिग हैं।
हेलो एंड वेलकम बैक टू स्टोरी अंडरलाइन। आज हम बात करेंगे कम्युनल अवार्ड एंड गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1935 की। कम्युनल अवार्ड जो आया था 16 अगस्त 1932 को बाय रामसे मैकडोनल्ड बेस्ड ऑन फाइंडिंग ऑफ इंडियन फ्रेंचाइज कमिटी also known as Lothina Committee. It established separate electorate and reserved seats for minorities including depressed class where 78 seats were reserved for 20 years. Separate electorate also extend to Muslims, Europeans, Sikh, Indian Christian, Anglo-Indians, depressed class and Maratha for some seats in Bombay. It was seen as another manifestation of British policy of divide and rule. Depressed class were given status of minority and also given double vote for general election and separate electorate. Provincial legislature की बात करें तो seats were to be distributed on communal basis and existing seats were to be doubled except for NWFP. 3% seats were reserved for women in all provinces. बात करते हैं कांग्रेस की. So it decided neither to accept it nor to reject. याद रखें इन्होंने मना नहीं किया ना इन्होंने हाँ कहा. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Gandhiji saw award as an attack on Indian unity and nationalism. Separate electorates would ensure that untouchables remained untouchable in perpetuity. Gandhiji advocated root and branch eradication of untouchability. On 20th September 1932, to press his demands, he went on indefinite fast. Poona Pact जो आया September 24, 1932 को. It was signed by Ambedkar behalf of depressed class as an amendment to communal award. Poona Pact abandoned the idea of separate electorate for depressed class. 18% of total seats in central legislature was promised. Seats reserved were increased from 71 to 147 in provincial legislature. What was the impact of Poona Pact on Dalit, that is untouchables? It could not achieve the desired goal of emancipation of depressed class. It made the depressed class a political tool. Depressed class got leaderless. Poona Pact led to depressed class to submit to status quo. It subordinated them into being part of Hindu social order. It put obstructions in the way of an ideal society based on equality, liberty, fraternity and justice. System of joint electorates deprived the scheduled caste of the right to send true and effective representation to the legislature. It also gave the Hindu majority the virtual right to nominate members of scheduled caste who were prepared to be used as the tool of Hindu majority. Therefore, P.R. Ambedkar continued to denounce the Poona Pact till 1947, who advocated annihilation of caste system to remove untouchability. बात करते हैं गांधी जी हरिजन कैंपेन की. So it was against untouchability. He started Harijan campaign first from jail, where he set up All India Anti-Untouchability League in September 1932, and when he got released in August 1933, he started his campaign from outside, where he then shifted to Satyagrah Ashram in Wardha. He started weekly Harijan in 1933 January. He promised in 1930 not to return unless Swaraj was won. On November 1933 to July 1934, where he started his Harijan campaign tour of 20,000 km, collected money through Harijan Sevak Sangh and urged political workers to go to villages and work for social, economic, political and cultural upliftment of the Harijans. He led too fast to convince followers of seriousness of the issue. Throughout, he was attacked by various unorthodox and reactionary elements, accusing him of attacking Hinduism. He stressed on certain themes. The campaign was against Hindu society for the kind of oppression practiced on Harijan. It was for total eradication of untouchability. On August 1934, his campaign led to Temple Entry Bill. According to him, Hinduism dies if untouchability lives. Untouchability has to die if Hinduism is to live. Opposition to untouchability meant opposing the notion of highness and lowness. He called Orthodox Hindus as Sanatanis. He started program of internal reform that includes reviving education, cleanliness, hygiene, giving up eating of meat, liquor and removing untouchability among themselves. बात करते हैं what is the impact of Gandhiji's Harijan campaign. It was primarily meant to purify Hinduism and Hindu society. Campaign carried the message of nationalism to Harijans, who were mostly agricultural laborers, increasing participation in national and पीजेंट मूवमेंट. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1935 की बात करते हैं. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एक्ट है. बात करते हैं एन ऑल इंडिया फेडरेशन. आप इससे पहले याद रखें कि इट नेवर केम अप. ऑल इंडिया फेडरेशन नेवर केम अप एज कंडीशंस वर नॉट फुलफिल्ड. इट इंक्लूड स्टेट्स विद अलॉटमेंट ऑफ 52 सीट्स शुड अग्री टू जॉइन द फेडरेशन. एग्रीगेट पॉपुलेशन ऑफ स्टेट्स अबव कैटेगरी शुड बी 50% ऑफ टोटल पॉपुलेशन ऑफ ऑल इंडिया स्टेट्स. So these conditions were not fulfilled and all India Federation never came. Therefore, central government carried on up to 1946 as per Government of India Act 1919. कुछ दूसरे provision की बात करें तो at federal level, executive subjects were to be administered, which were divided into reserved subjects that includes foreign affairs, defense, exclusively administered by Governor General on advice of executive councils. Executive councillors were not to be responsible to central legislature, not to be responsible. बात करते हैं transferred subjects. So these were administered by Governor General on advice of ministers elected by legislature. Ministers were to be responsible to the federal legislature and were to resign on losing confidence. Legislature की बात करें तो bicameral legislature was to have upper house, that is Council of States, with 260 members, partly elected from British India provinces and partly, that is 40%, nominated by princes. Election were to be held as direct election. Tenure की बात करें so it was permanent body with 1/3 members retiring every third year. They could not move a vote of no confidence. बात करते हैं lower house, that is Federal Assembly, or that had 375 members, partly indirectly elected from British India provinces and partly nominated by princes. Election was held in indirect manner with tenure of 5 years. They could move a vote of no confidence against ministers. 3 lists that are federal, provincial and concurrent. Regional and class-based electorates were further extended and 80% of budget was still non-votable. Governor General had residuary powers. ये point आप जरूर याद रखें that provincial autonomy replaced hierarchy. पहले hierarchy थी, now came provincial autonomy. 1935 Government of India Act. Executive की बात करें तो Governor General was to be the Crown's nominee and representative with special power, could also take over and indefinitely run administration. Legislature की बात करें, separate electorates based on communal award. All members were directly elected. Franchise was extended and women got rights on same basis as men. Provincial legislature could legislate on subjects in provincial and concurrent list. Governor could refuse assent, promulgate ordinances. Provinces were granted autonomy and separate legal entity. याद रखिए, provinces were granted autonomy and separate legal entity. They derived their legal authority directly from British Crown. They were given independent financial power, that is they can borrow money on their own security. बात करते हैं इवेल्युएशन ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1935 की. एक्ट एनफ्रेंचाइज्ड 14% ऑफ ब्रिटिश इंडियन पॉपुलेशन. प्रमोशन ऑफ सेपरेटिस्ट टेंडेंसीज लाइक एक्सपेंशन ऑफ सिस्टम ऑफ कम्युनल इलेक्टोरेट which culminated into partition of India. Provided a rigid constitution with no possibility of internal growth. बात करते हैं nationalist response की. It was condemned nearly by all. It was unanimously rejected by Congress. Long term British strategy की बात करें so they decided that right wing were to be placated through constitutional concession and radical leftists were to be crushed through police measures. Provincial autonomy would create powerful provincial leaders who could gradually become autonomous centers of political power. We have covered Communal Award and Government of India Act 1935 और हमने साथ में देखा गांधी जी's हरिजन कैंपेन का PDF आपको मेरे टेलीग्राम चैनल पर मिल जाएगा. तो मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो पे, तब तक के लिए ऑल द बेस्ट. थैंक यू.